Welcome to another episode of Don't Call It Small. I'm your host, Natasha Foreman. If you don't know me and you have no clue what this podcast is all about, let me share a bit. I'm the CEO of ForemanAssociates, LLC, where we provide consulting, business support, and professional development services. And Don't Call It Small is where we talk all things business, share tips and news that you can use, and highlight the people and ideas behind the products and services that we buy. To learn more about our team, please visit ForemanLLC.com. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I have a quote that I'd love to share with you that really, it ties into today's episode, but it also just ties into life in general. And it is from Dr. Maya Angelou. And she said, "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you." Oh my goodness. Is that not awesome? Just let that resonate. How many people transition from this world, from this existence, without sharing their story? They have an untold story. So I wanted to share that with all of you. Now, I'm so excited. I'm really excited. I have a special guest that I've been excitedly waiting to interview on this podcast. She's a superhero. And she's been sharing stories for years. And by day, she works as an executive administrative assistant. By night, she's either writing a book or reading one. Matter of fact, she says that she devours them. We met over 9 years ago, and I'm honored to call her a friend. I highlighted her in episodes 13 and 14 of this podcast. She writes women's fiction and romance, a little poetry, a lot of fan fiction. I mean, my girl loves fan fiction, and her work has appeared on so many different platforms, including indieinc.org, shortstory.net, storyfix.com. Those are just to name a few. Her books can be purchased in several formats, including ebook, paperback, or audio. And I just want to do a quick roll call of some of her books and short stories, all of which I've read. And she knows I read them because I would bug her during and after reading them. But there's Brunch at Ruby's, Dinner at Sam's, Beach Thing, A Thin Line, Same Time Next Week, Leslie's Curl and Dye, Anonymous, Unexpected, a holiday short, Second Time Around, a Potter Lake holiday short. And then last year she unveiled and clobbered me with The Guy Next Door, a Potter Lake novel. And I almost lost my mind and a lot of sleep. It was a page turner that I couldn't put down. And, I would finish work and then I would go to bed. I says, I'll just read, a few pages before I go to sleep. And then I find myself still up like at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And
oh, no.
Yeah. And I swear, when I read her books, I read your books, I visualize them as movies and I get really excited. So those of you that are listening, and you nail it every time. So who am I speaking of? I affectionately call her Dom, but you can call her DL White. Welcome to the show, Dom.
Hey, it is good to be here.
Oh my goodness. So right before we started recording, we just shared about the last time we spoke, and our most extensive talk had been surrounding your last book. So I'm glad to have you here. Talking about you and talking about your work is one thing, but to have you involved in in an actual conversation is something totally, totally different. So tell me, what's going on? I just have to know. Is there anything that you're working on right now?
I'm currently, you mentioned A Thin Line, which I pulled offline a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. It really needed to be rewritten and reformatted. I cut a lot out of that story when I first wrote it because I was worried about it being too long. And at the time that I published it, I had published Brunch at Ruby's, and I needed a backlist. Like, I needed another book to publish right now. And I had written it, and it hadn't really been edited very well. And I did the best that I could, and it was hand formatted, and I kind of pulled it offline after I had written a few more books and just realized it wasn't the best that I could offer. And I had no intention on re-releasing that book, but those characters would not leave me alone. So just every day I was thinking about, this chapter, you could rewrite it like this way, and you could say this better, and you could do that. You should add this part because it's really important, because at the end, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just rewrite this book. And so I started tearing it apart late last year and just rewriting and adding and cutting. And so it's in the beta stage, which means I have had other readers read it and just let me know what they think about the flow of the story, the feel of the story, what doesn't make sense, what's boring, what's exciting. Then I take that feedback and then I do another deep edit. And then it goes to the proofreader. So it should be out this spring. I don't have a release date because I don't like to push myself because then I start cutting corners to make that deadline. That's the beauty of being a self-published author. I'm my own boss. Yeah. So it comes out when it comes out. So, yeah. So that's what I'm working on now. I am planning a book for the fall, and then I always do a little holiday short that's always kind of sappy and romantic and holiday-y, and always puts people like in a good, cheery, festive mood.
Yes, it really does. You draw me in, and then I always complain to you. I'm like, but it was short, and you're like,
it's
Tasha,
so short.
It's supposed to be short. I'm like, but.
It's supposed to whet your appetite, so then you grab like all of the full-length novels and read all of those. So.
Which I do, and then I'm like, okay. So then you saw the first thing I said was, "What you working on?" Oh, what you working on?
When's the next one coming? So, I mean, that's not a bad problem to have as an author.
It's really not. So, for those people that may not have read your novels or your shorts, they may not know this, but the settings for the majority of your books, if not all, are usually set in the South.
Yeah.
And you're originally from the beautiful state of Washington, right?
Yeah.
So you live in Georgia. What brought you to the Peach State?
In a roundabout way, September 11th. So Spokane, Washington is in the Northwest. It's closer to Idaho. It's really about 30 minutes from the Idaho border. And I'm a military brat, and my father retired at Fairchild Air Force Base, and I lived there until I was 29-ish. I think I was 29. And around September 11th, the economy was just falling apart like it was at a lot of places. But there were so many companies that had offices in Spokane because the cost of living was low. You could earn, a New York or an LA salary and live in Spokane and live like a king. Houses aren't even $200,000 there, back at that time. So around the time that I was thinking about leaving, my business was closing. Business was down. I felt like they were going to close. Boeing closed a plant. Software Spectrum lost their Microsoft contract. Alcatel closed. Telex closed. So the market was just full of people looking for jobs that no longer existed. And then I was going to be in that same market just looking for, regular like customer service, secretarial kind of work. And I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to compete. Somebody who used to make $89,000 a year was just looking to keep their insurance for their kids. So, they were going to fight for everything and take, whatever was available. So I was like, well, I could go to California. I have friends there, or I have a lot of family and friends in Georgia. So, why not just, take a huge leap of faith, take a big step out, move to Georgia. It's a whole new state. It's the South. It's hot. I like heat. And also, up in the north, like in the winter, it starts to get dark around 3:30.
I didn't know that.
And the sun doesn't come up till around 8 o'clock. So in the winter, you might never see sun, especially if you work in a building that doesn't have any windows. And that just was not good for me at all. I had to get out of there. I had to go. So I made the decision, and I drove for 3 days straight. And I lived with my aunt and uncle for like 3 months when I moved down here. And that was in 2003. So the rest was history. And I mean, Atlanta is the city that I know the best. So I usually set my stories here in the South.
It's so crazy because I never knew that about the Northwest. I did not know that about the sunrise, sunset, and all of that.
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Oh my gosh.
And so you're in Georgia, but you have this water thing. Like, I know your passion for water, but of course people listening may not know your passion but I know you gravitate. It's like the water calls you.
Yeah.
And so would you ever, where would you live if you could live anywhere in the world? I'm assuming there would be a body of water. Where would that be?
Requirements? Yes. Yeah. So the retirement plan is to move to the Gulf Coast, probably like lower Florida, because I like to be warm in the winter. I have some friends that live like in the St. Pete, Tampa area. I've been spending a lot of time there. Madeira Beach, Clearwater. I just love that area. You still get the sugar white sand. You still get the beautiful blue-green water. But you're also close to kind of a metropolis, and, there's lots to do. And it's, even though we are in the South, it gets chilly here in Atlanta. And I always think, like, I live in the South. Why is it so cold here? I don't understand why I have a big white, thick, fluffy coat that I call Big Sally. And if it's below 40 degrees, I got to pull out Big Sally because I got tired of being cold. And I said, I don't understand why I got to pull out Big Sally in Georgia in February. Why is it so cold here? So the retirement plan is to move to Florida, live on the Gulf Coast, be warm 99% of the time. And if I can get to the water, I don't know, 5 out of 7 days a week, I'll be happy.
Well, it's interesting because I've been here since 2007, and I've been contemplating either relocating back home to Southern California, or I've been thinking about Florida. And interesting enough, around the same region that you're referring to is what I've been looking at. Especially like the past month or so, I've been zooming in and looking at my options. And because I miss the water, and I don't like that I have to drive 4 hours to get to, water at the base.
Yeah, Tybie's 4 hours away.
Yeah, right. And so that's the thing. And what happens is I notice that with the weather and the seasons, my mood is, seeming to be aligned with that. And I'm used to great weather, 80% of the time. And so I agree. Like, I would say, why in the world is it cold? It's ridiculous. I expect hell heat, but I did not expect really cold.
Yeah. And really it doesn't, I feel like for me, it doesn't get hot enough. It's for me.
Wow.
So I mean, a few days in the summer, it might hit 95, 98, but, for the most part, I'm like, but I am not a hot-blooded person. I am rarely hot, so I always feel like it is not hot enough here for me, and it's cold in the winter. I might have to get on a fire.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. Isn't it terrible? I run a space heater in the summer. I don't even know. My coworkers are like, "Are you serious?"
You're like, I need the heat. So,
I mean, if it's 88 outside, they have the building temperature on like 68. Like, why is it Alaskan tundra in here? It don't need to be that cold in this building. Yeah.
They're trying to kill the germs. So, transitioning to you as the author, published author. I don't. How many books and how do you have under your belt now?
I have 8. Well, I have 5 full length, which are like 45,000 words or above. And then I have 3 shorts. So currently 8 published books. And of course I have 3 that I have unpublished, so I don't count those. But there are 8 books out there that you could get. All of them are on Kindle. Some of them are in paperback, and some of them are in audio.
So when did you first start testing out your skills, like your writing skills?
Like around, I would say around like a 2nd or 3rd grade. Like, you know how you would have your weekly spelling words?
Yes.
Your teacher would give you like 25 spelling words, and I use each of these words in a sentence because they want to make sure you understand what the word means. And I was like, oh, this is boring. So let me make this fun. So I would take the sentences and create a story. Like, here's word 1, and then create my sentence, and I would link the sentences together so that by the time I made my 25 sentences, I wrote a story. And that was just me making the exercise fun and not even really thinking that my teacher was going to read it. I was entertained. And come parent-teacher conference time, my teacher had showed my mom all my stories that I had been doing week after week with my spelling words. And my mom was like, wow, okay, this is really good. So you like doing this? And I was like, yeah. I mean, do you like that? So it was just entertaining for me, but if y'all like it, I'll keep doing it. So I kind of discovered that not only was it entertaining to me, and it engaged that part of my brain that made me really enjoy that, but other people liked reading it, which was weird. So from that point, you know, my mom she would buy me all of the composition notebooks, all the pens I wanted. She let me, you know, read whatever I want. If I want to go to the library, let's go to the library. She let me stand in the books aisle at Albertsons every time we went to the grocery store. You know, if I wanted to read, if I wanted to write, she would let me do it. I would sit in my room for hours and hours and read and write, and that just kind of continued through the years. It was just, you know, some kids play with Barbies. I sat in my room and I wrote plays when my cousins came to visit. They hated coming to our house because I would write a play for us to put on for our parents. And, you know, I'd write stories and poems, and, you know, that just kind of continued until I was in high school, and I was writing papers, and I wrote, like 2 years in a row, I entered a Martin Luther King Jr. essay contest that the local university would sponsor every year for Black History Month. And I think around that, I won twice, and around that time I started thinking, hey, maybe I can write a little. I might be good at this. And so that's it really just started in like 2nd grade, 3rd grade, when I realized that people liked what I was writing, and I liked knowing that people liked it, so I kept doing it. First it was for me, but
then it brought other people joy, and you said, hey,
yeah,
there you go.
I think that's the fact that my teacher was so impressed that she showed those to my mother, and then my mother was like, hey, these are, you know, this is really good, you should just keep doing that. And I was like, all right. Okay.
I love it. So I know that you love reading books, and I know that you read multiple books at the same time, which, you know, at first I used to look at you crazy, but then I started doing it. just like you're the one that
Yeah.
got me to start listening to audiobooks. I used to look at you crazy, and then I tried it out,
Yeah.
and I got hooked. So,
Yeah.
okay, what are you currently reading?
How much time you got? I'm currently reading a lot. I just started today. I started a book called The Perfect Mother. I get audiobooks from the library. I get them from everywhere, but the library, because they're free to get through your library, but you only get 20 days, so I gotta get those out of the way first. I have The Perfect Mother. I have a couple of books that I had in paperback, but I like them. I like to listen to books I've already read for some reason. I don't know.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. So I'm reading The Perfect Mother by Amy Malloy, which is a thriller. And then I have a couple of different books, like, so many new books came out today, and if I hear it's good, I put it on my list. Happily Ever After by Tiff Marcello. I think it's Marcello or Marcello. Then I heard this book called Never Caught, about a girl who was enslaved in George and Martha Washington's household, and she escaped. I heard that was a really good book. Had to put that on the list, so that's coming up next. I mean, I have audiobooks, and I have ebooks, and like all my friends are authors, so every time they release a book, that has to go on the list. And like yesterday, I was like, I'm so stressed out because there's so many books I need to read, and I can only read one at a time. And this is why I read more than one book at a time, because I haven't enough time to read all the books I need to read, and then write them. So I don't know. So that's kind of what I have going on right now. I go through a book a day, so I keep the stack high.
Oh my goodness! So who are some of your favorite authors?
Tayari Jones is always number one. She's an Atlanta author. I've read all of her work. She is a professor at Emory, and she's just a fabulous writer. Love her. Pearl Cleage, who is one of her mentors, she was a professor at Spelman. And then, some of my favorites are like my other independent author friends. Like when their books come out, I just break my fingers ordering it on Amazon. Nia Forrester is amazing. If you've never read her books, just look her up. Start at the beginning and just work your way all the way out. Jacinta Howard, Tasha L. Harrison, Shelley Ellis writes just like the juiciest drama, kind of romantic women's fiction is what she calls it. I love Shelley's books. I just eat them up. Bernice McFadden, Terry McMillan, I just am in love with all of her books. All of them. I eat them up. Beverly Jenkins, of course, she's like the queen of Black romance and historical romance. Piper Hughley, Dr. Piper Hughley, who's a professor at Atlanta University. She also writes historical fiction, historical romance. She's sublime. So just so many, I could just go on for like 12 hours about all my favorite authors. If I'm on Goodreads under the Kirby Jones, follow me. All my good stuff is there. So if you're interested in what I'm reading and who I like, you'll find it there.
So what, do you have any mentors for your personal life, for your writing life?
Not really. I feel bad about saying that, but I'm kind of a lone ranger in that I don't, aside from my mom, I don't really confide in a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I will say that I bother Shelley Ellis more than I really should, but, I kind of tug on her a little bit from an author perspective. But a lot of times I take a little bit here and a little bit there, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I read a lot of articles, and I read, a lot of books, and I take a lot of what people say without them being, this mentor figure above me, leading me and guiding me, and kind of take it all in and sort of use that wisdom and use those words to instill, power or, will, or just kind of that you just have to keep going nest inside me. So I pull, from a lot of people, a lot of my favorite authors and a lot of authors that have been in the game for a long time, like Professor Tayari Jones, like Bernice McFadden, Beverly Jenkins. I could probably send her an email any day and she would email me right back to say, honey, you've got this. You just need to hold on, put your head down, and get to work, because that book doesn't write itself. All right? All right. So, people like that. I kind of don't have one person, aside from my mom, that I really confide in like that.
Got you. So I know that some people love or thrive in being part of different associations or groups or clubs or whatever that's affiliated with their industry, their field, their passion. Are you part of any, groups or associations?
Here and there, like in the last few years, like Atlanta Writers Club, I'm a member, but I don't attend meetings because I'm an introvert. Georgia Writers Association, I don't attend meetings because I'm an introvert. I was a member of Romance Writers Association, but it wasn't an organization that really benefited me, specifically as an author of color. I know if there's any authors that are online, they know all about RWA, and it kind of imploded at the end of last year, and they have a lot of rebuilding to do, but I did not renew my membership this year. It just was not serving me as an author. I am a member of the Black Romance Authors Network, which is a new network that's online that formed last year. And that is just great to get together with other Black romance authors to network and, confab and talk about what works and what doesn't, and resources, and, hey, I need an assistant who knows people, or I need to know how to do this and who does that, and who's good at outlining, and who writes by the seat of the pants. And just it's a good way to connect with people, because writing is such a solitary activity. It is not something that you can do with another person. So many of us just sit at home, with our face on our laptops. So it's a good way to connect socially, even if it's online, with someone who understands where you are and where you've been, where you're going, what you're talking about, without having to explain all the intricacies of being an author, like I would have to with my friend who, doesn't write, and, she'll read my books, but, probably not a whole lot of other books. So.
Mm-hmm. That was interesting that you said that, because like you said earlier about announcing like these deadlines, as you know, I'm writing my first, I'm actually going to complete a book, and it's a spiritual book. And so many people keep saying, well, when is it coming out? And I had to just say, when it's out.
When it's out. It's done when it's done, and not a minute sooner.
Exactly. When it's done. And of course I have this, this arsenal of other books that I've, got teed up as far as the concepts. But I remember years ago, you would always walk around with a notebook, and it really resonated with me, because, I was, a journalism student, and, just like you, that's just why I was sitting here cheesing, because I remember as a child, my love of books and my love of writing, those two things just went hand in hand. And so, just the things that you shared with me, because remember, I was okay with just doing my blog. I was like, I'm not going to try to release anything. I'll just keep doing the blog. But it's like that natural thing that's in you, that there's stuff that's in you that needs to come out in other ways. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we just find our comfort zone. So, for you as a writer, what tools and resources have helped you beyond just the course, these amazing networks, which I'm glad that there are networks, because I know that, certain certain doors, I'll say, within a house may have the title, right? But when you walk in that room, you realize that no one in that room is talking about what you're talking about, and no one in that room looks like you or looks like your audience. And so I know that could be a little disheartening, because you're saying, then who do I speak to when I'm, who can relate to me? And so I'm glad that you found those resources. But what other tools and resources have really been beneficial for you?
I mean, I'm kind of at the point where if I go someplace and I'm not enjoying it, I'm not having fun, it doesn't benefit me, I'm not in that place. Pinterest does nothing for me. I'm not on Pinterest. I'm not on Snapchat. I'm not on whatever TikTok new thing, because it doesn't do anything for me. I don't enjoy myself there. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm mostly on Twitter, on my writer account on Twitter, because that's where I get the most benefit. I pick up a lot of articles. I pick up way too many new books. I meet new people. I hear about, all these cool things that are happening. I pick those up mostly from social media. As far as do you mean like writing books or like programs, or what do you mean resources?
Thank you for making me elaborate, because you're right. That was a very broad stroke. So, but no, that was actually, by you sharing that, that's actually really good, because I don't think that everyone would actually consider the various online platforms and how they can be inspiring and engaging, but also where you can find a lot of information. But yeah, for as far as any writing tools, any software, any I don't know if there's any books or workshops or I don't know whatever you have been able to sit, you can look back and say, oh my gosh, this right here I cannot live without as a writer.
Right. So I'm pretty simple. I get easily distracted, so I got to break it down to bare bones. I write either in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, usually Google Docs, because I can access that from anywhere. If I get a spare hour at work, I can log into Google Docs and pound out, a paragraph if I need to. I can edit at work if I need to. There's Scrivener, which is it's novel writing software. I have tried using Scrivener. I just do not like it. So I don't know why I keep trying it, because I don't like it. But I have it. I just don't use it because Google Docs is easy. It works for me. Word is easy. It works for me. Another thing I like is I have a white noise app on my phone. When I'm ready to write, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I turn on the white noise app. I put the TV on like screen saver, pictures, whatever, and I put my face in my laptop, and that helps me concentrate. No music. No, I will edit to, like, if Law and Order is on or cartoons, I'll edit while that's on. But while I'm writing, no music, nothing to distract me. It is white noise, brown noise, pink noise, some noise in my ear. I am sorry. Is my phone being... Sorry. I'm trying to... Okay. I should have turned that off earlier. So, just super simple. Someplace I can access my writing anywhere. I can't remember to email myself a document back and forth. So I keep it in Google Docs. A white noise app to keep distractions out. What else? I self-publish, so I invested in Vellum software. It's the number one reason that I bought a Mac. Otherwise, I would still be on Windows, but Vellum only works on Mac, so I bought a MacBook. So Vellum lets you self-publish books, and if you have seen the difference between my first book and my last book, you have seen the beauty that Vellum presents. I also format my own print books. with vellum, so I do all that stuff, all myself. I use Grammarly to do, spell check, grammar check, continuity, language, all of that. I want it as clean as possible before it goes to other eyes so that they're not distracted by spelling errors or me stumbling over words. I always drop words so that they can get to the meat of the story and just read, straight through without distraction. Other than that, I don't use anything fancy. I find, it's a waste of money for me. I have spent in the past time and money on, fancy writing programs and, e-courses and all that. But the best thing for me, I think, is to read good books and to write, and then write some more. So I'm a keep it simple person. I know people that they really like their gadgets and they really like all the websites and their tools, but the simpler the better for me. All I need to do is write. I can figure out everything else after that, but I can't do anything until that thing is written.
So you mentioned Scrivener. I initially had Scrivener on one of my MacBooks, and I had it on my MacBook Pro. And when I first started writing, I did my writing on my MacBook Pro. But here's the problem. When it's now time for me to transfer this information,
right,
and to do certain things that I could only do on my MacBook, I didn't have access to that MacBook anymore. So I would then I'd have to buy the software for my other MacBook in order to do it. And I had to extract the information, put it in Google Docs, and it was a lot. And it was because I had to then email it to myself, put it in Google Docs, and then I used Grammarly and I used the Hemingway app. I used Hemingway because I could do it online no matter where I was, and I could just check it to make sure my flow. And then I used Grammarly. But I was so crazy because although it was seamless to type on my MacBook Pro with Scrivener, it was not beneficial when I ended up I think it gave me 4 more extra steps that if I would have known, I would have, I would have saved myself some time with that. The second thing that you mentioned that came to me was, it was funny when you said when you edit and you have the cartoons, because as I started editing, I realized that the Boomerang, watching my old Bugs Bunny and stuff, did something for me to help me in the editing, where I was like, I don't know why I'm up here writing about God, but Bugs Bunny had me going.
I need a little background noise. Sometimes I need something to ignore, and sometimes I need something that's just in the background, or just I don't know what it does, but if I'm editing, I need a little something in the background. I can do music or a TV show, but not while I'm writing.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense, because I know if not, I'll notice I get, and like you, I get distracted very easily. I'm like, ooh, leaf, ooh, bunny. I get very distracted, so I need to make sure that I can isolate myself in a way. Now, I know that you will take writing retreats. How do you determine where to go?
So I almost always try to go to the beach. There's something about the sound of ocean waves rushing in and out that is calming, and it lets me relax enough to let the words flow. Like if I come home from work and I try to write, I'm so tired, and I know I only have X amount of hours to write before I'm going to get too sleepy. So I have to come home and I have to rush and I have to change and I have to eat and I have to sit down and get myself all set up. And turn everything on, and then, okay, now write, and then nothing comes. Because I don't feel relaxed enough to write. So when I am away, there's just something about, like, not being at home. Just, I don't know, it just lets my brain open, and I am entirely more relaxed, and I can think better, I can create better, especially if I'm near water. So I always try to, like, go to the St. Pete area. Was going to Destin, but it just Destin's my favorite, but it's just too expensive. And if I can't afford that, I will book a room, like, downtown Atlanta, or go someplace like Norcross. I mean, just, like, far away, or like Kennesaw. I just need to not be at home. Not being at home reminds me that I'm not playing around. I'm out here to do work. I don't have anything else to do but this, because if I'm home, I will find something else to do. Like, laundry. Oh, I need to put in some laundry. Oh, that sink. I need to scrub out that sink. I need to empty the garbage, and I will find something to do if I'm at home. So I go away someplace not right down the street, so I can't just go right back home. And I just lock myself away from Friday night to Sunday morning, and my goal is to just to write, let go of everything else, order in. I don't even have to cook. Order in, room service, whatever. And then, just sit down and write.
So where do you get your inspiration for your stories and characters and settings?
Eavesdropping. Most of my stories have come from listening to people talk. Like, a lot of them are just like, really listening to people talk like that is going in a book. Yep. That's going in a book. I just heard the story. Girl, let me write this down. It's going in a book. So, I was walking out of work one day, and I heard this girl like, hey, I saw you at so-and-so. What's your name? And she said, my name's Leslie. What's yours? And that name just stuck in my brain. And by the time I got home, the first chapter of Leslie's Curl and Die had wrote itself in my head.
Wow.
I was on Twitter, and one girl was talking about how her husband got a letter from the IRS, said he owed $50,000. She was like, we ain't got no $50,000. And Dinner at Sam's just took off. Wow. Like, I have no idea what's happening, but a book is writing itself in my head right now. And let me just let you know that that's going in a book. So, just on the internet, reading this story from a woman that she just found out that her husband had like a whole other woman in another house. Like, he had a whole another life with her, and was telling his wife that he was, like, traveling for business. And she found his secret Facebook page where he had been posting pictures with her and had gone on vacations with her. And I was like, this is going in a book.
Oh my God.
And that was Dinner at Sam's. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I'm watching the New Edition story, and I'm thinking, now I gotta write, now I gotta write a young, music group, because I have watched this movie like 4 times now. So, the guys next door sat down in my brain and said, hey, you need to write our story now.
Wow.
Most of the time, either it's music, it's rarely TV, but it's mostly ear hustling. Just hearing people talk and thinking, wow, you could not even make that up. It's got to go in the book.
So to tackle a story, do you start first on your laptop, or is it pad and pencil, or like, what do you do? Walk us through how you sit down and say, this is I'm gonna just let this unfold.
The last year, mostly, I would say the last 2 years, I haven't really enjoyed writing. And I would say it was because I felt intimidated by writers who can just sit down and just shoot it right out. 55,000 words. I just wrote this in 4 weeks. Here y'all go. I'm going to go sit down here and write some more stuff. And these are writers that write full time. That's all they do. It's their main job.
Yeah.
And, here I am with a 9 to 5 and, I got other stuff going on. And I'm feeling intimidated that I can't do the same. And I'm sitting down and I'm trying to force myself to just sit down and just write something. Okay, situation, premise, blah, write it. And I'm just like staring at the computer like, I don't know. Maybe I can't write anymore. And that, I have discovered that is not my process. You have to figure out what kind of writer are you? Are you the type of person where your fingers start typing and the story comes as you type it, or do you got to figure it out on your own ahead of time? I got to figure it out on my own ahead of time. And I have figured that my full-length novels, from the beginning idea to the end of draft 0, which is like the really terrible draft before even draft 1, is about a year.
Okay.
Because I get an idea and it has to marinate. I tell my beta reader, I got something marinating. It needs to simmer for a little bit. So I'll get an idea and I'll think about it and I'll gather intel like, ooh, that's a good idea for a job. Ooh, he drives that kind of car. Okay, I like those shoes. He wears those shoes. I like his tie. He wears those ties. That hair, yes, that's his hair. Those hands, those are his hands. Houses and living areas. I gather intel and I take it in and just kind of let it simmer, let it boil. I have to figure out who these people are. Who are they to each other? Because it's normally romance. It's normally a hero and a heroine. And why does anybody care? What's the situation? What's the premise? What's the conflict? Are they together? Why not? And who cares? Mm-hmm. And by the time I sit down to write, that chapter 1 has to be like bursting out of me. It has to be waking me up at 3 a.m. It has to be slapping me in the face. Otherwise, I'm not ready to write it. If I don't know how the book ends, typically I kind of know how I want it to end. I just don't know how exactly I want it to end. But I need to know how this book ends. I need to know what grand gesture leads to the crescendo that leads to the final end, to this story, the wholehearted ending of this novel. I need to know all of that before I even put pen to paper. And normally I will start, I'll open a Google Doc and I'll be saving pictures of people and hands and shoes and cars. And I love looking at houses. I will waste hours on Zillow. I spent 3 hours on Zillow this weekend looking for a lakefront home for one paragraph.
I swear
I need a visual.
I love it. So I love it.
I will just start collecting all this information, and sometimes I'll print it out and put it in a journal. And then kind of once I start, I put together what's called the beat sheet. And especially if you're writing romance, most romances have certain beats. The meet cute is a scene where your characters meet and then they sort of feel something for each other, but they can't be together, and here's why. But we sort of like each other, but we really like each other, but we can't be together, and here's why. But we really want to be together, and so let's man up. Let's be together. And then there's like a dark moment sometimes where we're like, oh, we wanted to be together, but we can't be together, and here's why. And then, but then they have to come back from the dark moment, and that's when it's like just beautiful and magical. And so you got to, write out your beats and which beats are going to apply to this story, which helps you get to know your characters a little bit. It gives your characters the individual quirks and things that they like. And I don't know, Maxine drives a Maserati because she's stuck up, because she grew up poor and she needs to impress everyone around her. But her real friends know that she grew up in this little ramshackle house down the street from Renee. So they know that she's fake, and they just let her pretend to be, as fake as she is. And so these are all characteristics that are going to come out while you're writing your beat sheets and while you're writing your character profiles and doing your character interviews and kind of just getting to know these people. My stories are really character driven, and if these aren't, like, they can be humdrum people, but they're still really unique in a way. Like, something about them is different. Something about that person draws that other person to them, and vice versa. So those are things. Sometimes it comes out while you're writing. A lot of that comes out while I'm writing, but a lot of that I have to figure out first, because I have to figure out how they come together, how they come to each other. Do they know each other? Do they meet? Do they hate each other? Do they love each other? Are they friends? Are they friends of friends? Sort of that kind of thing. So once I have my beat sheet, by that point, chapter 1 is like just screaming. And then at that point, I might do a retreat, or I might, just roll over to Starbucks and sit myself in a chair and be like, hey, you got till 2:00 to get chapter 1 written. And by that point, the words just flow. And then I can start a book like nothing. It doesn't mean I'm going to finish it, but I can start it. But once I get chapter 1 down, like, I probably get like chapters 1 through 3, then I'm like, okay, where am I? Where do I need to go? Where do I need to end up? And at that point, I might plot here and there, because this needs to happen, because that needs to happen, because that needs to happen, because it needs to end this way. And then that's kind of how I can roll through to the end. It's sort of reverse engineering. I need to know how it's going to end so I can then plan my steps backwards to the beginning. And it's a lot of revision. It's a lot of just write it. You can fix it later. Just write it, and then fine tuning and a lot of finessing. I'm definitely not a one draft writer. My first draft is really, really, really ugly. I won't say it's trash, because nothing I write is trash. I do not write trash, but it's pretty ugly. So I definitely, from first draft to last is. You would be surprised to see some of my first drafts. So we'll just say that.
So, as I gave the visual of the book world being like this house or this apartment building, and each door is a different genre, how did you decide on a genre? Like, were you drawn to it? Like, or did it just mystically, magically appeared and you said, this is it? Like, how did you make your decision to do romance where you could have done like mystery or murder mystery or thrillers or whatever?
I would so like to write a mystery. I can't get my brain to go that way. It's still a plan of mine to at least do like a romantic suspense. As much, I read a lot of thrillers. I watch a lot of Law and Order. You would think it should be easy, but it isn't. So I have not mastered how to make the jump from romance to romantic suspense or to thrillers. I don't know, maybe I'm not creepy enough. I would absolutely love to do that. But romance, women's fiction, romantic fiction, focusing on women, I just sort of fell into it. And I think at the time that I started writing, there was a period of time, and maybe you remember this, where I felt like Black women were under siege. Mm-hmm. Like 48% of Black women will never marry. 50% of Black women deemed unattractive. Asian men and Black women the least attractive to date. It was like every article was just about how ugly and undateable and unmarriable Black women were. And I was thinking, well, I don't know what to say to this except to combat it with some Black men that cannot get enough of Black women, that love them, that worship them, that want nothing but to adore them. Black women that feel the same about Black men. And I said, if I can't find it, I am going to write it, and that is going to be my soft place to land. And that was what I sought out at that time, because I needed to be reassured by something other than me in the mirror and my mama, that I am lovable and I am marriable and I am attractive. So I really needed to kind of work out that, that stress and that frustration. I just felt really beat up on, and I needed something out there to combat that, and I needed to contribute to that, because I found a lot of it out there. And once I saw Black women writers like Farrah Rashan and Zuri Day, and these writers that were writing for Harlequin Kimani, which used to be the Black romance line that is now defunct as of last December. I saw them out there writing it, and there were Black people on the covers and Black love in the pages, and the indie writers kind of just took the ball and ran with it. And there are so many Black romance indie books out there that I was just encouraged, and I was like, look, these stories are sitting in my head, and these people are talking to me, and I may as well write them, because they won't shut up until I write the story. So I just started writing, and sometimes they dry up, but really, probably like in the last year, as I've rediscovered my process and stopped trying to force myself to write like other people, I have really enjoyed writing again, and like just finding the joy in writing, and characters that make me laugh, and heroes to make me go, oh, he's so cute, and female characters that are like, girl, you love him. I love writing that, and when I read it back, I'm like, it's my own book, and I'm like, she is so stupid. She knows she loves that man. Look how she's looking at his pants. I mean, she noticed his shoes. She loves him. I wrote the book, Tasha. So I love, doing that, and then to be able to step outside of the work and see that, but also it feeds into your psyche. When that's what you feed yourself, that's what feeds into your brain and your thought process, and that's what you exude. You look at Black women and say, no, girl, you are lovable. Everybody loves you. You are marriable if you want to get married. You are not only attractive, you are a queen. You are the bomb. You are gorgeous. And don't be listening to any of these reports out there, because they just try to get clicks. So, I really just needed to combat those negative statements out there, and it just kind of stuck.
Well, I absolutely love it, and I tell you all the time, I get sucked into, I'm the kind of person, I read a book, I watch a movie, I get sucked in, I become one of the characters, or I'm like a periphery character, right? And so I'm seeing and hearing everything, but maybe none of the other characters may not really know I'm there. And your books have those stories draw me in. And that's the reason why I lose track of time. And I think anytime a writer can do that, then you've got me. And so that's one thing I've always told you that. I'll sit up here, text you, and I'm like, oh, I can't text her this late. I'll text her tomorrow and let her know. But I love that. So
I love hearing that, because that's always the goal. If it doesn't play out like a movie in your head, I haven't done my job. That's always the goal. So I love hearing that.
And thinking of movies, I mean, if someone ever came to you and said, we would love to turn this story into a movie, which book would come to mind first that you'd say, oh, I could see that one?
I've always said Rubies.
Oh, yes.
It was because it was my debut, and that book that's a book of my heart. Like, if all of my books but one had to go away, I would keep Rubies. But, like Curl and Die would be fun.
Yeah.
Like a little romantic comedy Sunday afternoon kind of movie starring Loretta Devine.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun. Maybe one of my shorter ones, like, Unexpected, which is a little holiday short, or even Second Time Around, which had, I call them seasoned, older characters. I just think that would be like a fun little Hallmark movie where, a widow and a widower find each other in this small town, and it's so romantic and fun, and it's around the holidays. So, yeah, but definitely movies. I mean, to me, I could see all of them when I read them back. Or when I listen to the audio, it plays like a movie in my head, and I write it that way. But I could definitely see movies or Curl and Dye. Curl and Dye definitely, because the beauty shop gossip is just something I love to see on screen. And that was something that I got from Barbershop and Beauty Shop during Queen Latifah. I watched those movies over and over and over while I was writing Leslie's Curl and Dye, because I love the beauty shop setting where just women kind of just get together and gab and confide in each other and all that kind of stuff. So those would be fun to see on screen.
I agree. So how do you balance the time that you need in order to create in this realm, this space? And then you have your 9-to-5 job, you have your social life. How do you balance everything?
Well, I'll tell you, I ain't got no social life. I do, but for the most part, like I said, I'm a lone ranger. I spend a lot of time by myself. I rent a room in a house. I don't even have an apartment. I got rid of all of my stuff except for my car. Everything I own except for my car is in my bedroom. And I rent a room. The lady that owns this house is a travel agent, and she travels all the time. So I am alone a lot. So that gives me a lot of time if I'm at home to write. I try to remember that my books are like a side gig that's kind of lucrative. It is not a job right now. Mm-hmm. It don't pay no bills. Mm-hmm. So, at one point I was making pretty good money, but I was hustling really hard. And my day job provides like salary and a 401k and insurance and security. And so I need to reserve all of my energy for my day job when I'm at my day job. Yeah. So typically during the week, I don't write a lot. So I try to pack my writing into the weekends. I can edit. I do what I call a lunchtime word hustle. So I might, if I know what I'm writing, I can pound out a couple of pages on my lunch hour, or I can edit on my lunch hour, or like when my boss is traveling, my task list isn't long, so I can work until 2:00, and then from 2 to 4:30, I can write or I can edit. That's why I put things in Google Docs, so I can get to it wherever I need to, and I can spend 45 minutes. I can bust out some editing or rewriting or fix this, fix there. It's hard for me to write at work because there's too many distractions. Yeah. But I can definitely edit. And then some nights during the week I can write. I never write on Monday night because I'm too tired. If I have imposed a deadline and I get a book to a point where it's the point of no return, I know I can finish this book in X amount of time, and I can see the end of the tunnel. I can't not write. I will come home and I will spend 2 hours, 3 hours writing, get up, go to work all day, come home, bust out Mac George. George is what I call all my electronics George. So my phone is George, my laptop is Mac George, Roku George. So I'm quirky that way. So bust out Mac George. I might roll to Starbucks on my way home so I don't get distracted by whatever at home. Sit at Starbucks for a couple hours and type until I am done with that book. But for the most part, I don't write during the week. I save my writing for Friday night through Sunday night. If I get an invite to go to a movie, I go. If somebody wants to go, hey, you want to go do a walk on Saturday morning at Silver Comet and go to breakfast? I go, because I'm never going to turn down face-to-face time with friends to spend time with people in my computer. They live in my head. They're not going anywhere. So, you know, but that happens really infrequently. And, like, especially if I know I'm going on a retreat, like I'm going away for the weekend, I will try to spend time with people the weekend before. Hey, I'm leaving town on Friday. You want to do happy hour on Thursday or Wednesday or whatever? You want to do brunch on Sunday because I'm going to be gone next Sunday. You know how we do.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm out of town this weekend, that weekend. Let's do Saturday or Sunday this day. I try to plan it ahead if I can, because for the most part, if I know I'm going to be alone, I'm either going to be reading or writing.
So do people at work know about D.L. White?
Yeah.
So what do they say? How do they act?
They call me D.L. White. Yeah, it's fun. They're always asking me, hey, do you have a new book out? And are you writing a new book? Is your book out? And they're actually really impressed by it. I was just talking to my boss about it today. He's like, we had talked about, I earned a bonus this year, and he's like, hey, you can take a beach trip and write another book. Like, yeah, that's how it works. So he's like, I'm just super impressed that, like, that's how your mind works. That is not how my mind works at all. And I'm like, hey, there's time's going to pass. There's so many people that say, I want to write a book. Hey, I want to write a book. And I have written 8 of them. So, yeah, they know there's a salesman at work. When he found out that I was an author, he started calling me D.L. White. That's the only thing he ever calls me. Not Dom, not Dominique, D.L. White. And he asked me probably for months, 6 months, for me to put him in a book. And I was like, I said, Ryan, my books are romance. I can't put you in a romance. He's like, put me in a book. I said, if I put you in a book, you might die. And he's like, I don't care. Put me in a book. Put my name in a book. You put me in a book? Did you write me in a book yesterday? D.L. White. Am I in your next book? I said, Ryan, I'm going to put you in a book. He's like, okay, put me in a book. So I put him in The Guy Next Door. He is in The Guy Next Door. He could not be more proud to be in that book. He bought a copy of it. He took a photocopy of the page where his name appears. We took a picture. He's like, I'm going to frame this and put it up in my house. Like, it's just your name in a book. He's like, yeah, but my name's in a book. So they love it. I love it. They love it. So whenever I release a new book, we have a private Facebook group just for our group at work, our team at work. So we sometimes post personal stuff in there, and every time I release a new book, I post it in there like, yay, Dom, that's so exciting. Like, when's the next one coming out? Like, this one's not even out yet. So, yeah, so like we just hired a new project manager, and somebody had mentioned, oh, Dom writes books. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, really? And I said, yeah. And she's like, are you serious? And I said, yeah, I write books. She's like for real? Like books? Yeah, for real, like books, like novels. I have them at my desk. Because she's like, wow, that's so cool. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah,
I love it.
Apparently it's a really great thing.
I said you're a superhero when I introduced you, right? There you go. So
Yeah.
So looking forward, the next 10, 20 years, where is D.L. White and what is she doing?
Well, let's see. I mean, like I said, the retirement plan is Florida. Hopefully I get to retire in, the next 20 years. Hold on, I'll be 46, 66, that's retirement age, right? So the plan is to retire to the Florida coast and write books full time. So I'm just going to have to, do this part-time writer thing until then. I'm kind of a off-the-cuff kind of person. Like, I don't even have a plan for this year. I don't know how many books I'm going to publish. I don't have a revenue goal. I'm doing good to figure out what promo posts I'm going to post that day. Mm-hmm. So I I try not to stress myself out with this is a job kind of thinking. I don't have a business plan. I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years, but I know these stories aren't going to go anywhere. So hopefully I will have had at least one book a year for the next 10 years. So I'll have, 20 books out. Hopefully I can get, that romantic suspense written. I kind of have it planned. I just have to I have 2 chapters of something that could be something, but maybe I need a romantic suspense mentor to help me pull it. But I have so many ideas that there's no way I'm going to stop writing in the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever. So as long as I am able to keep writing, I will be happy. But I don't have a long range plan. My long range plan is keep writing.
I love it. So do you have any book signings or events coming up?
I don't. For me, time spent writing, I think, is so much better than spending money to travel somewhere and split my books from A to B. And I've met a lot of writers, and if the event is not in Atlanta, I am not going there because I'm not spending the money to travel and ship my books and all my table stuff and find my PayPal here card. I don't even know where that card is right now. I put it somewhere. I don't know where I put it. Every 6 months I have to figure out where I put that thing so I can charge, cards and stuff. And I'm just not an event author, but I think if I ever had a book that hit big, that sold really big, I don't think that I would have a choice but to do book signings. But right now, no. Maybe later in the year, I might do something. Occasionally, a bunch of Atlanta authors will get together and do a big reader event, and I will always participate, in that. But I don't have anything planned right now, and that's cool.
So right now, people can go to your website, which is booksbydlwhite.com, and then you're on Twitter and Instagram at author_DLWhite, and then on Facebook at booksbydlwhite.
Yep.
And then do you still have it where people can purchase the autograph books for the $10 plus shipping, signed autograph books?
Yes, just send me an email. If you're on my website, just send me an email. And I have to do that all by hand. I don't have a behind-the-scenes shop or anything. But I have a lot of those books in my garage. So let me know what you want, and I can get it handled for you.
So the email is authordl@booksbydlwhite.com. And then you said to make sure that people include a relevant subject line so that it doesn't hit your spam box, so that it's...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm quick to hit the spam button.
Well... Dom, it has been an absolute pleasure. I don't know why my phone just rang. I have it on Do Not Disturb, but it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the Don't Call It Small Business podcast. I look forward to having you back soon. And of course, we need to get our Twitter brunch crew around a table with some yummy food real soon.
Yes.
So I absolutely love you. And I'm so, so glad that you are my first interview of 2020. And, of course, I'm going to double back with you and we can have more conversations, on the podcast and really start to dig in some things and some business stuff too, because I think there's a lot of people that have stories within them. We have a lot of people that have published, and there's certain things there's lessons that people can learn and share, as far as being able to share your gifts and your talents. And you may not turn into a billionaire doing it, but at least you can not make certain steps that can keep you from feeling like a broke writer, right? That kind of where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even, because all the fees and all the, you got to pay for this, you got to pay for that and everything else. And you're like, I just want to write and share my work. So I'd love to be able to follow up with you on a future episode so we can really talk about some of those different nuances, and maybe I'll get some other people involved as well with that. So people can really learn, because like I'm about to share these two. Let me get my music queued up. Hold on a second, because it's that time to start wrapping things up. Where's my music? There's my music. It's the time to wrap up and go our separate ways until next week. And of course, everyone knows they can shoot us an email at don't call it smallbiz at gmail.com. But there's these two quotes that line up perfectly with each other. And the first is from Louis L'Amour. And that said, "Start writing no matter what. The water does not flow until the faucet is turned on." And then I found a quote from Sylvia Plath, and she said, "And by the way, everything in life is writable about if you have the outgoing guts to do it and the imagination to improvise. The worst enemy to creativity is self-doubt." And, speaking with you, I've had the same things where I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I don't know. And then I'll stop writing for a few weeks or whatever, a few months. And, I started this in 2016, August 2016. I'd pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. And that, that self-doubt definitely can hinder you. So I thank you so much for sharing with all of us today. For everyone that's listening to this episode, make sure you guys check out Foreman Associates. We're on Facebook at Foreman and Associates. We're also on Instagram and Twitter at Foreman LLC. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Natasha L. Foreman. Reach out to me, say hello, share your story. I look forward to meeting you. I want to give credit for this song. This is Shane Ivers, and the song is Higher Up. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Don't Call It Small Business podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. And don't forget what I tell you on each and every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. I will see you here next week for episode 37 of Don't Call It Small. Have a super awesome day and week.